Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Frauds, or myself, Matt, and my co-host Tyler.
Hello.
Spot a completely unprofessional, 100% biased opinions on the movies of today, tomorrow, and yesteryear. Today, we're doing another modern classic, talking about the filmmaker we've probably talked about the most on Film Frauds,
One of
that
them.
being Paul Thomas Anderson. We have previously done episodes on Punch Drunk Love, Phantom Thread, and The Master, but never have done a modern classic on Paul Thomas Anderson. But before we get into Paul Thomas Anderson, how are things going, Tyler? I want to chit chat a little bit before these episodes. Just
Oh no,
talk about things.
this is not planned. I'm a little nervous where this is going. They're pretty good. I've watched 33 movies this year, so I'm
Mm.
doing pretty good. Yeah, for some that is a lot. For some you're like, man, step up your game, and I have been slacking the last 3 days, but they've been. I'm a little nervous to say like it's pretty good about you. What's in your mind?
My girlfriend reviewed the podcast, left a star rating.
Okay.
Um, and she wants me to tell a story that happened yesterday. So that's the only reason why I'm
Okay.
asking what you would do, so I can talk about what I did over the weekend. Um, so she's Iranian and she's having like a party at her school, like with like 150 Iranians there. And she wants me to be for like New Year's, because New Year's for them is in March, because like that's like the start of the spring. And she wants me to be the host for like the English side of it.
Okay.
And then my first reaction was why? Because I'm not good at public speaking. And so I said, can I say some jokes for if I'm the host, like the
Okay.
Oscars host something?" And she goes, you do not need. So what I've noticed is that she becomes more Persian when she's frustrated about something. Like she
Okay.
can't, like her English is great. She's fluent speaker, but when she's frustrated or when she like doesn't want to get her point across, she tends to like neglect like English language
Yep.
rules. So she just went, "You do not need," like, as in you don't need to do that.
Yep.
But she just said you did not need. So yeah, she wanted me to tell the story on the podcast. So there you go for our listeners. There's a little glimpse into the life
Uh,
of me, Matt.
Matt, and what you're up to. Well, you said she reviewed our podcast. Did she like
Yes,
it?
she got a five. She gave it 5 stars.
She get 5 stars.
She watches it on the kitchen table while looking at me. So it's a pretty strange experience, to be honest.
Is it weird to hear your voice and be like, I'm right here?
Yeah,
Hi. Yeah.
it's
You
weird to
can,
see me while she's like, "It's you right here," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is me right here."
you're like, wow.
Um,
It's,
yeah,
it's,
so
it's, which episode did
it
she
is
listen to?
definitely it's like a Lynchian experiment, or I am in two separate spaces in the same room at
Okay.
the same
What
time.
what episode did she listen to?
Listen to the Poor Things episode.
Okay, that's a good
So I
one.
told her to fast forward to the Snyder cut rant, and she just kind of stared and smiled at it,
Yeah.
not understanding
Has she
anything that we were
seen
talking about.
any of those movies? Poor
No,
Things, Iron
she's only
Claw.
seen Wonka.
So when we're like sitting there talking about like a sexually exploitative movie, she's like, these movies.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the
yeah, that was
story.
a little
I
diatribe.
I
I
don't
also
have
want
it.
to say, because I'm going to shout this out before. If you leave a review for our podcast, we
Yeah.
say we're going to read the reviews
Yes.
on the show. So your name and your review will be projected to the tens of people who listen
Yeah.
to this podcast.
What about if it's a bad review? I don't think we've
But
talked
it's a
about
bad
that.
review. We're gonna read all reviews
Yeah. All of it.
regardless,
Every
no
single
matter
one.
what's being said.
Yeah.
We will say slurs on this podcast if you write
Uh,
slurs. No,
I
we
think
won't do that.
yeah, I think you could take over the reading
No, I
responsibilities if we get a
probably not
mess.
actually. We will not do that. But we'll make a note when you say slurs, and then we'll say your username as well. So you'll be responsible
Yeah.
for what you
We'll be
say.
like, this person says this bad thing about this person. It's just an insult to me.
Yeah,
Like, look at you.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But that
Well,
was a
Matt,
little yes.
speaking of movies with I there's a with racial jokes in it. I
Yes.
think
And with a very wandering plot.
a wandering plot. Yeah. That was a pretty good. I like that. Well, I think we should do like a little like what's happening in our lives every
Okay.
week, or
Yeah.
maybe I don't know if there's a lot happening in my life right now instead of just hanging out. Matt, what did we watch today? What's going on?
We watched Licorice Pizza, Paul Thomas Anderson's most recent movie. Came out in 2021. Stars Gary Hoffman, son of
Stars Cooper Hoffman. You even
oh
read the name at the
yeah,
beginning.
the character's name is Gary. It stars Cooper Hoffman, son of the other Hoffman, Dustin Hoffman.
No,
What's his
not Dustin
name?
Hoffman. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Philip Seymour
What is it
Hoffman.
with you today?
And Alana Haim as Alana Kane. That's actually, I know those two names rhymed, but it also has just a star-studded cast of Benny Safdie and Bradley Cooper in supporting roles, and it follows the romance of sorts between a 15-year-old boy and a 25-year-old adult woman in California in the
25.
80s.
Yes, 70s, 70s.
70s or
Yeah.
80s during the time in which like oil shortages on the rise. And Gary is a kind of like rising star. He's like a child actor who's coming to terms with the fact that he's like getting older. By getting older, I mean he's not a little kid anymore. And has to deal with that kind of stuff. You've seen this movie twice, if I'm not mistaken. You saw
I
it in
have.
theaters and then you watched it again.
I
Why did
did.
you recommend this movie for the modern classics?
I gotta be honest. Well, one, I mean, like, let's be real. We could talk about PTA in a second, but we are
Mm.
two mid-20s guys who like movies. I mean, it should be no surprise that any PTA movie we're like, like
Yeah.
foaming at like chomping at the bits. And if the rumored projects of his next movie being a Vineland Finland adaptation with starring Leonardo DiCaprio, I mean, we will be naked front and center, like
Yes.
ready to see that. Like, let's be real here, like anybody of our generation is going to probably point to PTA movies and be like, there's something about them. And we are probably in the midst of, like, when we look at like the history of cinema and like our whole goal with the modern classics is to, when we're old and gray, we look back and be like, yeah, like that guy, like PTA
Like
is
we
going to
wasted our
be
lives talking about movies for
to tens of people.
yeah.
um,
Yes.
we can, I mean, we're gonna look back and be like, PTA is like a seminal director. I think not just of our time, but of film history. I mean, he makes like, has he made a bet? Like, even his worst movie, in my opinion, is still a great movie.
What's your
So
worst movie
Punch
from
Drunk
him?
Love.
Okay.
I think
Oh,
Punch,
okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think Punch Drunk Love for me is the movie that has his biggest flaw in any movie. Um,
Okay.
and so that for me. But I mean, let's when okay, so it was weird. So I saw this in 2021. I don't live in California anymore, so I have no problem doxing myself. They actually put out
You had no
early,
problem when you lived in California.
yeah, no problem either. But now I can really say specifics. Early in California in 2021, I remember seeing like they were doing like preview screenings in like LA and New York and like major cities for these movies in 70 millimeter. And I very emphatically bought 2 tickets for Olive and I. And we went to like the historic like Westwood Village, like the Regency Theater. And we got there, and this was 2021, so still kind of COVID. And I actually want to talk about later like the COVID aspects of this movie because it's kind of weird. PTA movie came out and like COVID kind of like stamped on it a little bit, but we went there and the line was like around the block. It was like
Wow.
150, 200 people deep. We got our tickets. We saw it in a massive theater in 70 millimeter, and I like loved it. Like I adored it. Like absolutely. Like there's a lot of aspects about it when we talk about it specifically, but it's been a movie that has sat with me a lot, and I've thought about it a lot in the last few years since I saw it. But like many other PTA movies, they are kind of like adventures. So they're not always like, for me, like at the end of a work day where you're like, man, I kind of just want to throw on like the transporter, like instead of like the 3 hour, 2.5 hour The Master. Like,
Yeah.
and so PTA movies are arguably some of the best, but they're also at times like not always the movies I want to throw on. So it finally eventually like the desire and the thinking about it got so much that I'm like, we have to watch Licorice Pizza. And I watched it again. And I have zero idea what you think about it. But first, before you spoil it, I want to know about right now in 2024 your thoughts on PTA because you've had a interesting experience with him, I think.
It took me like years to like PTA, to be honest.
Okay.
Like I watched The Master and Punch Drunk Love. Oh, we did a Boogie Nights episode too, now that I think about it.
We did do Boogie Nights. Did you
Yes.
like Boogie Nights?
That's the first time I actually liked a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Okay.
So I watched Punch Drunk Love, Boogie Nights, just didn't get it. I was like, whatever. And then I watched Boogie Nights because we wanted to do the PTA like anthology, I guess, so on Film Frauds in the first iteration. And I watched it. And I'm like, this movie's awesome. And I rewatched The Master and Punch Drunk Love, and like I love them, and I think they're great. Um, and then since then, I've I've started to really like vibe with what PTA does as a filmmaker. Phantom Thread, I think, is one of the best movies of the 2010s.
Mhm.
He's just a master of the character study, and it's so and his like writing, especially like because I know he gets fame. Most of his credit comes as a director, but as a writer, like the worlds he's able to write in, like There Will Be Blood, The Master, Phantom Thread, all have like completely different characters in different worlds, but they all feel so authentic to what they are. Like one's hybrid society, one is like out in the wild California hunting for gold for oil, and the other is about a cult.
Yeah.
So they're all so different, and all of his characters are so well realized, and like the weirdness for me. He's a huge admirer of Thomas Pynchon, and I see that as well in his writing, like that interest in like creating these crazy characters, but like grounding them in real life. And he never feels like he's like making fun of the characters, and it feels like he's trying to just like tell a story. It's like, again, as we talked about with Taylor Sheridan, where never Taylor Sheridan says as a writer, his job isn't to like tell you how to feel, and I get that vibe with PTA as well. And like his movies can be funny, they can be like tragic. Just he's such a master, like even of like Boogie Nights. Like Boogie Nights is a very funny movie, but that scene when they're in like when they're doing the drug robbery, and
Yeah.
it's like one of the most tense scenes in cinema.
Because the guy's
And
like
he's like
blowing the
27 when he
firecrackers.
made that movie, which is insane. Um, so yeah, I love PTA. It took me a long time to like figure him out, but now that I put in the work, I guess I could say he's one of my favorite, not even filmmakers, but writers as well.
What of his have you not seen? I've seen all of his
I've not seen
movies.
Heart Eight or Magnolia.
Magnolia that you haven't seen is wild. That's one that like I
Yeah,
feel like, but that's a 3 hour movie, and with your current schedule, that might be
yeah, I
that
gotta
that's
see those two movies. I just haven't
yeah.
yet.
So if you were to identify out of any like, do you have any personal favorites of his? I knew because you said
I
you
think
said
Boogie Nights and Phantom Thread are my two favorites.
what are your least favorite? What do you like? I don't know.
Um, Licorice Pizza.
Okay. Oh, great segue. All right, I like it.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
and that's a genuine segue. I watched Pizza for the first time,
Okay.
for this podcast a couple of days ago. I thought it was fine.
Okay.
As I literally just said, sometimes it takes me like multiple viewings to get what PTA is going for. But even though like I feel like I understand the headspace now to being a PTA movie, I can firmly say this is my least favorite PTA movie.
Over like the master, because I know you weren't as big on the master
Oh, I
over.
love The Master. I just think the ending is a little underwhelming.
Okay.
This movie I thought had like a really great like first 20 minutes, and then I think it's barred down by humor that I did not find funny at all.
Mhm.
And I'm not in a and we'll get into some of the humor. I'm not like clutching my pearls or anything. We'll get to the Japanese accent
Yeah.
part, but that's not even including that. I thought a lot of the humor was just bad to me.
Okay.
The way I would describe it is that PTA movies, apart from this, are like wacky characters being grounded in like
Hmm.
a real reality. And this movie felt like boring characters being put in wacky situations.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. Because I felt nothing for Gary and Alana, except for the first couple scenes. I thought they were great. And then again, like even like with like Bradley Cooper's character, it's like Adam Sandler-esque humor, like when he's like breaking the stupid windshield, and then like the tennis girls walk by and goes, "Oh, hey, ladies," like
You're so I
that
found it
stuff.
so funny. I think it's so funny.
That was so juvenile to me. That was so juvenile. I
Interesting.
couldn't. And like I think Bradley Cooper's performance is good. I just think his character was just one note,
Okay.
and it was like, oh, he's the guy who just says stupid things because we need humor in the scene.
Well, he's clearly, I
Um,
think, a character. I think he's based on John. I think he is John Peters. Like, I think that's a real
yeah,
guy. And I mean,
yeah.
his
And then
character's.
it's like, oh, Streisand. Like,
I,
was that supposed to be funny?
I mean,
Did you
I
laugh at
think
that part?
I
Because I
did.
didn't laugh.
I found it really funny. I'm a big like I really like Bradley Cooper, so I gotta be honest, I love my biases. I'm really curious before I want to talk about
He
my
does
opinion of
crazy
it.
well. Like he does crazy in the Silver Linings Playbook really well, and then
Yeah.
American Hustle really well. And like again, I just felt like the character was there to be a joke for a
I
little
mean,
bit.
yeah, that's the point. Yeah, that's the whole
Yeah,
point
but
of
like
it.
I wanted more. Like I wanted like a reason to it. Like again, like Fender Third is so funny, and like
It is funny.
it's like a hilarious movie when like when like the sister's like, oh, he likes to grow a little bit of a belly. Like things like that are so funny. Um, here again, it felt slapstick at times, and I didn't know what to make of it.
Do you think this is one that will because I know you mentioned like multiple times. I mean, do you think this is one that if you watch again, do you have like this is what I'm curious about because this is even after my first seeing it again, I'm like, I kind of want to watch that again. Like, do you have any desire to
You
go
went down
back
in
and
your ratings though.
I did, I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gave it
Um.
a 5 and then I also
Oh,
abandoned
because he gave himself this arbitrary restriction where he can only give grades full stars for no reason at
I
all.
got
Uh,
and then I was like and then eventually I was like at my apartment in LA and I was like this is fucking dumb and I spent like an hour going through 9 pages of reviews of movies and then half starring some of them and being like that's actually like 3.5 not 4. um so yeah, I'm really curious though, do you have any desire to rewatch this if this is something
yeah,
that
every PTA movie has gotten better on a rewatch for me, so I'm open for it to be better. Sorry,
he's choking, he's dying.
though I just drank water and it went everywhere except for my throat. Um, I think there's definitely a chance I like it more on a rewatch, but I think there are just some juvenile aspects to the movie, or like just because again, like jokes are typically most effective on their first beat on their first time around,
Hmm.
and so like I can't see these jokes somehow being any funnier, even when I know that they're gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, it feels like it's like Yorgo's humor at points, like really dry, like the scene where Gary's doing the commercial where he's taking off the clothes and putting them on,
Yeah.
and he's like this, and it's like it's so drawn out. And I know it's being drawn out, and there's no music or anything for a reason because it's supposed to be funny. But the thing about Yorgos movies is that like it's so committed to like the dry humor and like the dry world that it makes everything kind of believable in a weird way.
Hmm.
Whereas here, it's like it can't decide between being in reality versus being like a dry humor kind of thing. And the same thing can be said. I'm jumping all over, so I
Yeah.
apologize. But like when Alana's pulling down the street, escaping Bradley Cooper's house,
Yeah.
and there's like no music, and it feels like B-roll footage. And then like they park it and then they escape, and then Gary Cooper and then Gary's like, yeah, we did it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, was I like did he show that he was worried for his life at any point during that scene? Because it just seemed like it just kind of came out of nowhere. And you can say, oh, that's the point. It's like mundane because it's real life. But it just felt so awkwardly made to me. And like I didn't know was I supposed to be laughing during that scene because I don't know what I was supposed to feel.
So this is what I'm really curious about because I mean I don't want to be like PTA movies are kind of not to use like a common like PTA movies to me are often like vibe movies and I know that's like a really weird thing to say but they kind of are like a lot of them like if you're in the mood for a certain type of thing like sometimes they just really like hit they really work for me. I want to say that when I first saw it I was like yep, I'm in. Like when 2021, I'm really in, and I can understand a lot of. I mean, this is definitely if you even look at like Letterbox. And I know Letterbox isn't the metric, but Letterbox is like the main. I think our generation's probably like main movie source right now. It's one of his
Hmm.
lower reviewed movies across the board. So you aren't in the minority here. It seems a lot of people seem to have some kind of issue with it in some capacity. And I think that's something I'm really fascinated by. I did love it the first time and I did love it again the second time. I am a little bit lower than it on a second watch, which is actually probably the first time that's ever happened in a PTA movie. And I think it's because I mean the movie is basically like a series of vignettes. It's you're following these two young people as they figure out themselves, as they figure out and navigate the world in this kind of this time span as they as they find a purpose, as they find a reason, a direction, as they find connection and like through this kind of like crazy chaotic world. And it's clearly, I mean, it's set in the valley. It's based. I think it's based off a real guy. Gary is based off a real
Yeah,
person.
I've heard it's based off of a real
Yeah,
person.
but also, like, it's pretty apparent that this was taken a lot probably from experiences of PTA's childhood in the valley. Like, it's a lot of those kind of like it's like self-insert kind of like realized movies. Um, on a rewatch, it probably falls for me in the bad back half of PTA movies. I think there's like my ranking of PTA kind of goes all over the place, but like there's like three kind of definitive top three. It's The Master, it's Boogie Nights, and Magnolia. Like, and I don't think that's any of the same. And then like Phantom Thread. I really love Heart Eight. Like There Will Be Blood, and then like Licorice Pizza is around there as well. And
Okay.
I think in a movie like this, where it's essentially just a series of vignettes, incidents happening, characters moving place to place, doing certain things. I think in any type of movie like that, there's obviously going to be sequences where you're like, I'm not going for it as much. And for me, there's like two. The first one is everything with Sean Penn and the motorcycle at the
That stuff
club.
was bad.
I don't think it's bad.
It's not, yeah, I'd say it's bad,
Yeah,
but it's like, again,
uh,
I didn't laugh. I didn't know. I'm like, is this
yeah,
supposed to be funny? It just feels like a waste. Like the movie's already almost 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Is this
yeah.
needed?
That one I can understand because I mean PTA clearly, you listen to him in interviews and he has a love of Hollywood. He has a love of the impact that it has, the culture that it has, the people in there, like like you said, the eccentric personalities, the real characters. He has a clear affinity for it. And this is one of those scenes where he writes like an eccentric character. Whether I didn't do as much research as I probably should. That's probably should be the tagline of Film Frauds is Film Frauds. We analyze stuff, but we probably don't do a ton of research. But like that's probably if that's
I did
based on
research.
you did do
I got a
research,
quote
right?
from PTA
You did.
that
I
I
was
want to read
listening.
later.
I was listening to some interviews on him as well before we were talking about this. So I
Want
wasn't
to write
a little
anything
bit.
down? Or your notes?
No, I didn't. I was
Mm.
watching them on YouTube. Um, but that is a scene where like on a rewatch, even Olive and I were like, I don't really know where this is going. Like I don't
But
really
again,
know. Like
it's like the Adam Sandler esque humor where it's like it's funny because it's Shaq. It's funny because it's like is it funny because it's Sean Penn?
I
Like, is
don't
that what the
know.
joke is?
I don't know. That's the thing is like I don't know if it's like supposed to, and that's one of the sequences where I can definitely agree with you. Where I'm like, I don't know the intention of this. It doesn't feel like it fits in with the movie. I know that within the scene itself, it fits in with like the Alana character. She's older. She's hangs out with these like 15-year-olds. She talks about it in the movie, and she's trying to gravitate towards some kind of purpose. And we can talk about the Gary Alana relationship later on, but like I know within the character it makes sense for her. But watching it, it's like I feel like they chose a very uninteresting aspect of it. I didn't care about Sean Penn's character. You have this like actor with this old timey Hollywood executive, and you're kind of just sitting there, and you're like, and then they do it like a motorcycle son, and then it kind of ends, and you're like, oh, and I know there's a lot of stuff of like the first time it's Alana running to Gary when he gets arrested, which is a scene I really like, by the way. I think is really great. And then this time it's running to her, and at the end they're running together. And I get the point of it, but as like a watcher, you kind of just get bored with it.
I think it's funny that the actual jump is like kind of like tame.
Yes.
It's just like like one little ramp
Yeah.
like that like. But it's like, did we need like 30 minutes to build up to this? It
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
that
long.
funny.
It's about a 15-minute sequence, maybe 10 to 15 minutes that doesn't feel like it needs to be in there. And of course there's like whether or not I really like the Bradley Cooper stuff, but it, there are moments like sequences like that. For me, also the stuff with Benny Safdie's character is good, but not as interesting. And it's an
Yeah, and again, like with PTA, it's like it feels like the characters here are meant more to be laughed at than anything, versus like other PT movies where like the eccentric characters have humanity to them. Where like, I don't feel like Bradley Cooper's character has a lot of humanity, or
yeah.
Sean Penn's character has like any humanity. They're just versus like Boogie Nights, where like there's a lot of like wacky characters, but they all have something that like grounds them. And
Yeah.
like
It,
here, there it just lacks that
I mean, Boogie Nights is the best example of this. I mean, the only reason I'm
because
thinking about this,
that's like vignette based as well too.
yeah, a lot of like a series of lies. But I just watched last night with Olive, rewatch Ides of March. I don't know if you remember that movie,
Oh,
but
the Ryan Gosling movie.
yeah, with like George
Yeah,
Clooney, but Philip Seymour Hoffman is in that movie, and I just I was thinking about his character in Boogie Nights, where he's like kind of this the like the side like kind of sadder loser character is how he's portrayed,
yeah,
but he's really just like he's looking for a desperate connection, and you have that scene with him and Dirk Diggler where he goes to like kiss him, and you just kind of feel bad for him, and it's kind of moments like
yeah.
that. I think for me, and I wonder, I'm curious to see your thoughts about this, but I mean, I really connect with movies of characters trying to find themselves. I always have, I always will. It's a bias for me. Movies like Francis Ha, I think are always like where characters are kind of aloof and they're working to find some kind of identity, whether it's because of where I am in my life and maybe 15, 20 years down the line, I will connect with these less. But every scene where it's like Gary and Alana trying to I like working together and like having some kind of purpose. I love. I like absolutely adore. But when they kind of branch outside of that, I do think it's hit or miss. The Bradley Cooper stuff is a hit for me. The Sean Penn stuff is a miss, and the Benny Safdie stuff is kind of in the middle. As soon as it branches around and gets a little bit larger, it kind of But when it's those two finding their purpose, finding themselves, I'm all in.
I didn't really buy into the relationship between Alana and Gary.
Can you tell me more about? I'm curious. Why not?
I liked their first few scenes together, like when they first meet, and I'm like, okay, he's a little like he has like some charisma to him, so I understand like why Alana is like indulging him. But like it got to the point where like they're fighting more than anything else, and like they're constantly angry at each other about things, and I'm like, I don't think these people should be around each other.
Okay.
They I don't really know how to say it because like again, I know it's like slice of life, different vignettes and everything, but like the way they connect wanting to be a child actor to wanting to sell water beds to then Alana wanting to be into politics. It just like it's so disjointed. Like I didn't get anything from the first scene of the movie that Alana had any interest in being into politics until she was with Benny Safdie. And they're just doing the thing. I'm sure there's a scene when I rewatch it where she's like, "Oh, how could you think about this when this political issue is happening?" And like, okay, so maybe they do connect. But at least in the first viewing, the Benny Safdie stuff with Alana, I'm like, does she really care about politics? Does she really like? Is her life really gonna be that much better with Gary in it?
Well,
No.
that's what I think is interesting is I kind of agree and kind of disagree where
Mm.
a lot of her stuff is her trying things. I mean, she tries to be an actress. I mean, you have that scene where she goes and she's like, I speak French,
Yeah,
Portuguese,
Portuguese.
Latin, and they're like, and then the person's like, you know what, you're a fighter. I can see, and it seems like that. Like she doesn't know what she wants to be. She doesn't know what direction. Whether or not she says she's 25, and whether or not she is actually 25 or like representative of early 20s during that time period is, up for debate, and we can talk about that. But she is a character who's very like trying different things to find who she is, and it goes into acting and politics. And I can't argue with the fact that like if it doesn't click, it's not gonna click. And if it doesn't, like if you can't find that narrative through line for yourself, then I don't like this is a certain type of movie. And I think if this certain type of movie is not working for you, I can't see how you would like this, if I'm being honest. Like the fact that you like it as much maybe as you do, and we can talk about maybe some of the good parts that you like, that I'm curious about. I understand. Like this one I can't argue with as much as maybe something like if you didn't like First Reformed, to be like, are you fucking
What
like
do you think about like Cooper Hoffman's performance in
I think
this
he's good.
movie?
I think he's good. I think he's a first time actor, and I'm very curious to see what he does next. I think what he's given, I think he has that like screen presence that his dad, Philip Seymour Hoffman, has, where you're like, you're kind of unconventional, but I'm all in. The best scene is definitely the first scene where he's walking and talking with Alana.
Yes.
And the scene where he gets arrested. Those are two where I'm like, he can act, like he can do it. Like he can be something. What did you think?
I thought he was okay.
You thought he was okay?
I didn't think he really had that like that Ferris Bueller persona where it's like you can get away with like being like a salesman and things like that because you have that charm that attracts people.
Mhm.
Um, I think, but I think he's good. Like, what was he like 20, like 17 when
Younger.
this movie came out?
Yeah, I think he was like 18, 17,
Yeah,
18.
so it's like he'll get there eventually. Thought he was good. I thought Alana Haim was good, but like nothing really spoke to me as like these two have it, you know?
It's interesting because I want to ask you about this because if you probably listen to some stuff, but Paul Thomas Anderson has a clear he talks about how having known Cooper Hoffman, it's because of Philip Seymour Hoffman since he was 3 days old, and he has worked on music videos with a lot with like the Hames music group. I was curious what you think because this is actually something I kind of really liked about the movie, and PTA has always had an incredible eye for casting, whether or not that's him or someone he works with his casting. Did you like these two leads being like unknown actors? Because I really, really did. Not having like any ties with them, being able to kind of like lose myself in their performances and their characters and be like, these aren't like I'm not looking at Bradley Cooper playing like a comedic role, or I'm not looking at Benny Safdie and going, hey, that's fucking Benny Safdie. Like,
Mm.
what'd you think about that? Because to me, that's like a real big benefit for this
It's
movie.
it's interesting. It's a good choice to do that. Like I was able to see them as their characters.
Mhm.
But like again, I didn't really buy the chemistry too
Okay.
much. I'll get into like the pros again. I liked the first few scenes. I thought the funniest scene was when Alana brings her first boyfriend into like for dinner, and he's like, "Oh, like respectfully, I'm an atheist," and things like that, and they kick him out. He's like, "Are you circumcised?" He goes, "Then you're Jew, then you're a Jew," and like things like that. Like it's like that was again, it's like edgy humor, but I thought it was funny.
Mm.
Again, it's like putting yourself in that 70s time frame. Um, that was pretty funny. Again, like the humor was I thought was so good in like the first 30 minutes or so. And then like I thought there'd be like some sort of payoff to like the Japanese stuff, but it just ends up being a stupid joke that doesn't make any sense.
They're just, I think they're snippets in did you find, like, I'm curious, I know you said, like, clutching your pearls at the beginning. I know some people have taken fault in the, like, anti-Japanese jokes, but I thought it was pretty clear, like, that guy's a fucking, like, he's meant to be laughed at.
I don't know because there's not like nothing ever happens to him and there's no explanation to why he's doing it and why these Japanese women are even talking to him if they know. Like they don't understand what he's saying and he doesn't understand what they're saying. Like how do they know when to speak? You know?
Yeah,
Like again, because I was like checked out of the movie, so I was like, why is this happening? What's the point of it? Again, like if it was a Yorgos movie where you establish it's like this unconventional world where like this stuff doesn't make sense and you can laugh at the absurdity of it. But like it's like it felt like such like an under thought of joke.
I kind of can, like, this is the thing is I can kind of agree with all of
Like I
this.
know he's dumb, but like what is the point other than just for it to be dumb?
I think arguably, like, it's just sometimes there are weird fucking people. Like, and I think this is what's interesting about this type of movie
But
is
like how
like,
does she know when to respond to the guy?
I don't like I can't argue about the logistics, but like that line where he's like, yeah, I don't speak Japanese. And he's so you're like, oh, okay. Like this is all so goofy because you're that first scene where
Like was it PTA's friend who thought he could do a really funny racist stereotype of
that's
an Asian
fucking
thing, so he just threw it in the movie because he felt bad for him.
I thought that was fucking Billy Zane or something like that. Who was
That's
that
not
guy?
Billy Zane.
Who the fuck is that? I thought I like knew him. I thought I had seen him in something. I don't know. Like it's type of humor that like I gotta be honest. Like I was like, oh, they're clearly like making fun. Like this guy's a joke. Like he's goofy. He's stupid. Like he's very clearly like very racist. But also like I if this takes place in like it does take place in the 70s. Like I don't know what if there was like I don't know about like the anti-Asian sentiment at the time. Like I don't know if that was more of a normalized joke and it's so clearly a movie set during the 70s. And I mean it's so also like shot on location. Like I watched an interview where PTA talks about like driving around the valley and just like scouting for houses and locations. And you can tell there's a real sense of like insert into this, like experiences. Like there are weird like you've experienced this too in your travels, I've imagined. Like you just come across weird people, like interesting characters and like unique people who have their own
Hmm.
like lives and understandings and like why is that person like that? I don't know, but like that's just how people are. But you can also see that as a fault of the movie if you're looking for like comprehensive like understanding of like
I
who
was
the fuck
looking
is
for like
this?
a joke. Like, like
I thought
that's
the
what I
joke
was
is
looking for.
I thought the joke is on the guy though. Like we're not supposed to be like yeah, we're supposed to be like this guy's a fucking goof, like he's an idiot, like he's a like kind of like a racist buffoon. Like I thought that is supposed to be the
It just
joke.
didn't
Like
make any sense to me. Like again, like the way everyone's reacting to it. Like
mm.
no, like in the broader sense, it felt so underthought of. But again, it's like it's not worth talking about because it's
but it's
no one ever cared. No one making the movie thought about the joke in any sort of
But it's
sincere
interesting
way.
though, isn't it? Because it's like it's the same thing you can argue with like the Bradley Cooper character, where you're like, is the point of it meant to be like when you're a teenager and you're like going about life, you just encounter these weird people, and if it works for you, it does, and it
But
works
there's
for
no
you.
other PT movie where there's like a Bradley Cooper or this guy kind of character where it's like where it's like he's just an idiot.
I'm trying to think, are there like the
He's just
master?
a one-dimensional moron.
But is there other character? Has he? We've talked about this before. We talked about this beginning. Has he made a movie somewhat like kind of like Boogie Nights?
Yeah, but as you say with Looking Knights, every character has like
Yeah, has a
a
purpose.
thing.
Yeah.
There is like a level of like, okay, this is kind of fun. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman's kind of a weird guy, but maybe he's kind of weird because he's secretly gay and he can't come out. Like
Yeah.
I was expecting something from the Bradley Cooper character or the Japanese guy character where you like there's some sort of explanation as to why they are the way they are,
Yeah.
but there is no explanation.
Yeah. And if the explanation is just they're a weird guy, then that's not you're
It's
not
not fulfilling.
it's
Like
not
that's an
fulfilling.
Adam again, that's like a Happy Madison comedy
Okay.
skit.
See, I wonder, do you feel the same way about the Benny Safdie character then? A character who is a politician who is gay but can't come out because of the politics of the 1970s of being gay. Like a guy who wants to make change, but his sexuality and his relationships wouldn't. And but I mean that scene where Alana takes home his boyfriend and he like cries and he's like men are shit. And it's like this like two people who are lost in finding a purpose, like kind of like have this sweet little moment. I really like, I think is really good. What did you think of that Benny Safdie stuff, honestly? Outside of the
I
politics.
admittedly I was kind of done with the movie by
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
It's just like I had no emotional attachment to like whether or not Alana and Gary were gonna get together. So like by that point, like I think Benny Safdie does a good job. I think this plot would have been interesting if it was developed more over the course of the whole movie, as
Mhm.
opposed to having a weird scene with Sean Penn for no reason. Um, I just felt nothing. Like I'll be honest, like I didn't feel anything. I didn't care.
Okay.
It's interesting because PTA in an interview said that he was writing like a sadder movie
I saw that.
at the
Yeah.
time, and then just decided to write something happy. So like I'm happy that he is he like this is clearly like a passionate movie. Like my greatest compliment to the movie is that clearly PTA cares about what he's making.
Hmm.
It just isn't like I just didn't emotionally connect with what was going on. And it's a beautiful looking movie, like the scene where after Gary and Alana get in the fight while at the while selling the water beds and she's walking out in the street at night and she took LSD. Like that whole sequence,
Took LSD.
or she got high. She got
Oh yeah,
high
yeah,
before.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um and like everything is like has like that slight like brightened chromatic feel to it, like the insides of how of buildings with lights on kind of
Yep.
like blur out into the street as she's walking. Like that, like it's a beautiful looking movie. PTA as a director hasn't lost any of his style there. It's a great looking movie. It's interesting that this movie and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out within 2 years of each other
Hmm.
because they both are very similar. They're like each director's love letter to like their early childhood memories,
Yep.
vignette style, focused around like like the California Hollywood scene.
Yep.
And I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I felt nothing for this movie.
Well, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a better movie than this. I'm gonna like I could pretty
Okay,
confidently say.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like to be honest, it's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, not to be like we're having a conversation about PTA and we gotta talk about Tarantino and seem like two fucking film bro mid 20
yeah,
simps, but like
yeah.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's
Who's
my
better, PTA or Quentin Tarantino?
oh I just I really I'm fascinated by this movie a little bit, to be honest. I think this is a type of movie that I'm super curious to see. Like when we talk about modern classics, and we could talk about that a bit because I have a few more things to talk about with this, like how this movie ages for me, how these type of characters, like as I grow older and as I experience life and find my way in every other cheesy epithet in life. But like I'm curious to see if this type of movie is a type of movie that can hits a certain type of person at a certain age, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. Um, what do you think? Like, is this a movie that you can like? Do you see yourself like liking this more? Like, do you like watching more? I know every PTA movie is
Yeah, on a
better.
rewatch, again, like as I said, every PTA movie on a rewatch I've liked more, and I assume I like this movie more on rewatch, understanding what it's going for.
Hmm.
Um, I can just say firmly right now that of the PT movies that I've seen, this movie is the worst. Not a bad movie, but and again, I can see why people like the movie versus like other movies where like I'm like, how do you like this? Like I
Yeah.
understand like why people would like it, like the kind of craziness to it. I just at least on this viewing, um, it felt like I was like it was weird. It's like when you know someone and you think really highly of the person, and then like slowly, the more you know them, the more you like, the less you like them.
Yeah.
It's like this movie started. I'm like this movie's gonna be sick,
Yeah.
and then like little by little, I'm like it's still good. Like I
Yeah.
still like it. Okay, this is a little bit of a slow part, but like
Yeah.
I'm still feeling it. And then I'm like, okay, Bradley Cooper's just screaming and throwing things, and now Sean Penn is screaming and throwing things, and I don't care anymore. I just want this movie to be over. I've accepted it. I've
Yeah.
accepted.
I've accepted my anger of this. I
Yeah.
I wonder. The last thing I really have to ask about this is the age gap, because that is something that was a element of the controversy, and I say controversy because people like we could talk about this movie in a larger context in a second. But what do you think of the age gap? I mean, Cooper, uh, his character's 15, 16. Alana Haim is
Yeah,
supposed at 25.
I mean, like, I feel like my head thinks too practically. I'm like, well, legally speaking, I'm sure they signed things and made sure it was okay.
In like real
So it
life,
does
the
the
actors did,
actors
or
in real life
yeah,
sign
obvious.
things, so it's probably okay. That's the only thing I think about. Like, were
Is
the actors okay with it? That's
I'm
all I
pretty
care.
sure. I'm pretty sure. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, they were. I mean, I think Alana Haim is 30. I think Cooper Hoffman is 18. I think he's
yeah.
18.
So like, I don't like I don't see that in the movie. I just see it as being like a stupid gimmick more than anything else. Like,
You think?
whoa, like
Yeah, like a
who
young guy
cares?
and an older
Yeah.
girl finding in
And they
this.
don't even do it like they kiss once.
Yeah.
That's all that happens.
I mean, no, she shows him her boobs once,
Yeah,
and she
but it's
gives
like
back.
not real. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah. There's a great. This is what I'm interested in. I think this is a good time to talk about our modern classic status.
mm,
Do you have any other
yeah.
final points on the movie? Any other
No, I think I've covered everything I want to talk about.
cover everything? Okay. Um, modern classic, and I think this is a really really interesting discussion because we this is a fascinating movie to talk about if it's a modern classic. You may
Mm.
have a more concrete answer. I have a more
My
mixed.
my answer's not as concrete as you might think.
Okay. So I want to before we talk about the PTA aspect of it, I want to talk about the time it was released. So
Mm,
I have a 2020, 2021, and 2022 are weird fucking years for movies.
mm.
Because 2020 is COVID, and that year you can basically wash out every single movie that came out. That year is not going to be a modern classic. I don't see any movie that released in
Yeah.
2020.
I was looking
Maybe
at my letterbox for 2020 movies. I'm like, all these movies suck.
yeah, it's like it's weird, and like you can look at every movie. Like Nomadland is not a modern classic. It's not.
No.
It's just not.
Minari's not a modern classic.
Minari is not a modern classic. Even a movie that if you have to tie to directors like Tenet, I fucking love Tenet. Tenet is a weird movie to think about in that context.
And of
20
course, when we say a movie's a modern classic, it's not like a subjective grade from us.
Yeah,
Again, we said First Reform is probably the best movie we've talked about
it's a modern
on the
classic.
podcast, and we, at least as we see it right now, we do not see this being a modern classic because the discourse around it does not support it being a modern classic.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
What do you 2021 is weird because 2021 is when movies started coming out again. I saw this movie full mask, full COVID. COVID was still going on.
you
Mask
had full COVID at the time,
I
and
was, yes, I was full. Yeah,
"It's cold."
just like you want to see my boobs now. um, it was fully a mass theater. It was.
I
It
got
was.
this.
I just spent $20 on fucking movie tickets for 70. I'm not getting rid. It just. I remember people caught. I remember it being in the air. I like to think I'm you. I like your vision of me is like. I rip my mask down, throw Skittles or M&Ms in my mouth. I cough 8 times. I bleed, and then I just put the mask back on. I'm like, I'm staying safe. I saw this was a fully masked theater. I remember this very vividly.
Joe Rogan told me to take some ivermectin, so
Yeah.
I took some.
I
So
took
now
my
I'm
horse
immune.
medicine, and now I'm just neighing. Just
Now,
with some
now I'm the
hair.
guy from Sorry to Bother You.
um, 2021 is a weird year. What movie won? Let me ask you, what movie won Best Picture in 2021? Do you know?
Wasn't it Nomadland?
That was COVID. It was Coda.
That's right. I have no idea what
I've
this movie
never
is.
seen Coda. Never.
Yeah.
Ever seen Coda. 2022 is also a weird year for movies because that was the remnants of COVID. That was a weird 2023. This is the first year where I'm like Oppenheimer, modern classic. I can check the box
Yeah.
now. Barbie, modern staples of movies that have come out that we will be talking about. That like even regardless, like Killers of the Flower Moon is a Martin Scorsese movie that we will probably be talking about. This is
Definitely, and like yeah, like huge movies by big directors that all did well. Fincher had a movie that come out, which I could see as being like a huge cult classic
Yep.
in like the subsequent decades, like
Yep.
like another Fight Club kind of movie.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you
May
think
December
about
could have legs in like
yeah.
some weird circles. Like you never know.
Streaming movies are
Yeah,
streaming movies like have changed it. Licorice Pizza
yeah. It felt like streaming services like came back with like good movies again in
yeah,
2023.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the algorithms have been pushing like what was it? Leave the World Behind, I think was the second most watched movie on all of streaming platforms.
which is like amazing from as like a huge Sim Esmail fan. Like
Yeah.
I was so happy to see that.
It was
Yeah.
huge. So many people watched that.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You said it wasn't as concrete. I think I've already laid the groundwork for why this might be an interesting discussion. What do you think? I'm curious about your opinion.
My I'm leaning towards no.
Yeah.
My hesitation is that I could see this movie being a good coming of age movie for young people, like watching it and then like being fond of it as the years go on
Mhm.
and like keeping memory of it. But I don't know how many young people cared about this movie. Like how many people were just guys with beards going to see and be like,
I
I'm living my childhood vicariously through this.
I was in LA. It was a mixed bag, honestly. LA is always a mixed
Okay.
bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Was this movie like a box office hit
You
or
you vamp for exactly 35 seconds that I can tell you.
okay.
I don't think so because this was 2021. I don't think people were as comfortable going to go see movies. Box office $27.7 million US. So
Okay, so no one cared. Yeah.
but it was COVID. Okay, so here's
Yeah, but I'm just saying I'm not even saying like COVID. I'm just saying not a lot of people saw it, and I'm sure most of the people that saw it were like film bros like us.
exactly.
Like I just don't. I can see it as a movie that people like Perks of Being a Wallflower. I feel like it's a movie that has had a legacy because we watched that in high school, and is like a movie that people who are our age like maybe remember.
I disagree. I don't think anybody's talking about Perks of Being Wallflower anymore. I
I
think
mean, maybe if Ezra Miller wasn't a psycho. Okay,
yeah. So this is the thing. Is
so
like
maybe not then. Maybe they won't. Okay.
this is what's interesting and this is why I think any movie that came out in 2020, 2021, 2022 has to be like looked at through a weird lenses. Everybody like thought about COVID. Like movies didn't really have as big of an impact. Like ha- like I don't want to be like the best example I can give of this is a Marvel movie, but the best example I can give of this is probably a Marvel movie. A sequel to a Marvel movie came out in 2022 called Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and it's had no fucking impact. And we can talk about that's like a larger Marvel discussion, but the first Black Panther movie was like a monumental
Yeah.
cultural impact. It made Chadwick Boseman like a household name. Like people fucking and then the sequel came out, Chadwick Boseman passed away, and it made like $800 million and people don't fucking care about that movie. And
Mm.
I think it's a larger Marvel discussion, but also it's a weird time for people. My hesitation
It
with
won't be
this,
the hit that Madam Web
it
is.
won't
This
be,
is
which we will be seeing together, which I will be dragging you
on Valentine's
on
Day.
Valentine's Day. I'll be like, girlfriends, fuck off. We're seeing Madam Web. Um, this is my argument. Is it's the PTA argument? Is are we gonna look back at a director who did not make 40 movies, who made, let's say he makes 15 in his entire career. He's made 9. Are we gonna look back and be like, all of these are fucking awesome and he's the PTA guy?
But what's the chance we're gonna remember this movie over even if we just look at his 2010 movies, The Master and Phantom Thread? Does
It's
Licorice Pizza like even hold a candle
no.
to
And
that?
but is
No.
it PTA? Like, are we gonna look back and be like, all of his movies are like when we like but that's the argument is like Spielberg. Like there are movies Spielberg we forgot. There are Scorsese movies we've forgotten about.
Yeah.
There are Nolan movies that like kind of forgot. Like Tarantino
I think
movies
the only
like
exception is like Tarantino because like he just has like I mean he technically has 9 movies, but no one counts that movie.
Death Proof.
The what?
Death Proof.
Yeah, Death Proof.
But that's exactly like is
Like you
there
have like every like even Tarantino who has 9 movies has a Death Proof that nobody cares about.
but here's the thing, and this is what I think is interesting. Inherent Vice is already the forgotten PTA movie.
You're right. Inherent Vice is a movie.
You mentioned 2010s and you did not say
Yeah, I did
Inherent
not mention
Vice.
Inherent Vice.
Is this gonna be the like Inherent
But
Vice? And
this movie being more memorable than Inherent Vice does not necessarily mean memorable,
that's a
right?
good point. Yeah. But now we have to argue is Cooper Hoffman is going to be an actor. I think he's going to be a good actor. He's already been
Mm,
tapped for the SNL movie
yeah.
that is out there. That's going to be he's already been cast in that. I think he's casted in a Cooper Rafe movie that he's going to be in. He's I think I'm not gonna I'm pretty sure there's a movie coming out with Cooper Hoffman where he's paired up with like a classic actor. I can pull that up real quick. He's gonna be in a movie. He was in a movie called Wildcat. Was it The Trashers? There is a movie that he's gonna be in with Christoph Waltz called Old Guy. That's
Hmm.
gonna be where it's like a hitman movie or something like that. Where where it's like so Christoph Waltz. So like he's gonna be an actor, and I wonder if he's gonna be like his dad, like a. So is this? Are we gonna look back and be like that was the first movie with like Alana Haim just got casted in the next PTA movie? Are we gonna look back and be like, damn, Cooper Hoffman is like the best character actor, and Licorice Pizza is the one, and it's PTA, and it's like Bradley Cooper
This is the
too.
first case where I feel like it's legitimately too early to tell.
It's too early to tell, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
way too early.
because like again, like if you look at the ratings of this movie, it's like a 3, which is not high for PTA.
Three
But you look at the
six, yeah.
potential for the cast around it, which I mean, Gary Cooper could burn out in like 5
Gary
years.
Cooper. Cooper.
Cooper Hoffman
Yeah.
could burn out in a couple years, or he could be like his dad,
Yeah.
like Philip Seymour Hoffman. Alana Haim could be in the next PTA movie, but she could do nothing else after that.
She's a
So,
musician though too. She's a moderately. She made music with Taylor Swift.
oh,
She's on the
okay.
Folklore album. Like now, isn't it like it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I'm just thinking of it as like as a 3, like a 3 in Letterboxd. It's came out during the pandemic where all the 2020 movies are just kind of in this bubble of like no one really cares
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like the movie is less than the sum of its parts,
That's a good way of putting it.
you know?
Yeah.
Because it's PTA and who is already an established filmmaker. Like, could this be his death proof, or could this be a movie that people remember? I'm leaning towards it being more of a death proof than like a movie that people will remember. But again, it's like everyone around it is better than the movie itself,
Yeah, I can
kind of
under
thing. Where,
and
but
I
again,
really
like,
love the movie too, which
yeah,
is
I'm not saying like it's a negative. It's just that the people involved in the movie are either established or have a ton of potential to be established later on.
it's tough. Okay, let's let because I think we have to make a little decision. If you were to lead in your gut, what would you say? If you were to
My
gut
gut
it.
is saying no because I think that Gary Cooper Hoffman
Yep.
and Alana Haim, they do like much better movies.
Hmm.
Then this movie will not be remembered.
I think my gut is saying yes.
Really?
I think
Okay.
we have our first actual film frauds disagreement
Yeah.
where we both are gonna, this is where we hire hitmen to kill each other. Except for the right
Mm.
answer.
But like, let me ask you this: what was Al Pacino's first movie?
You sick son of a bitch.
What was Robert De Niro's first movie?
Oh wait, I know this. I know this. It's something Sam. I think it's something Sam. Hold
Okay.
on.
Oh, it's something Sam.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. But that's the thing is like, what was Philip Seymour
Well,
Hoffman?
yeah. What was Philip Seymour
But
Hoffman's
Philip
first
Seymour
movie?
Hoffman's big first movie was like A Son of a Woman, I
What
think.
was his first movie?
You man, fuck. But it's different because it's PTA. It's PTA. It's a PTA movie, and he is gonna be the. He did an interview. He's like, I made this movie in mind of like, what's a good drive-in movie to make, and I wonder if
Mm.
it's that type of like movie that we're like, I don't want to say like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where everybody knows Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but would it? But Ferris Bueller's Day Off was a much bigger movie when it came out, though, so it's a
Yeah.
little bit. But like, are we looking at like like a cult movie that in 10 years we're like, oh, the 2010s? Like, I wonder, like, when we're done with the 2020s, if we're looking back and being like, man, Licorice Pizza, that was one of them. That's in the discussion. Probably not for you, but maybe.
What like are there like film? Do you see any film bro essays on this movie?
It's PTA. There's always gonna be film bro essays.
Yeah, but
And
like PTA, like they do The Master and they do Phantom Thread and they do
that's the
Boogie
argument, and
Nights.
that is a good case.
I haven't seen
Okay.
anything for this movie.
How about this? In the sake of an argument, because Phantom Thread, The Master are better movies than this,
Mm.
and they're more recent. I will lean over and say a no. I will concede, but my own personal preference is like I wish
Okay.
this was a yes. But I can agree that this is probably not going to be a modern classic.
Okay.
Out of PTA's like, what's the word? Oeuvre filmography.
Yeah, filmography, his resume.
Man, that kind of hurts to say. I really like this movie. Like I really liked it.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. It's just about like did this movie get any Oscar? It got Oscar
It got
nominated.
nominated. Yeah, it got.
Yeah.
I don't think it won anything, but like this one is like, how First Reformed was a really tough no, but it was kind of an easy no.
Yeah.
This is probably the hardest no I've had so far.
Okay.
Well,
It
yeah.
just like I just feel like all those 2020 movies are
This
they're
this is
they're just in that bubble of no one's gonna remember anything from
yeah.
that.
I
you
wonder.
know?
I wonder his next movie if it's rumored to be the Vineland adaptation. I very
Yeah.
much wonder what, especially with DiCaprio. Like we might be, if we're still fucking alive or doing this, we might that one might be like, yep, modern classic DiCaprio
Mm,
PTA. We're in 100%.
yeah.
All right, I will say no. I will
Okay.
agree with you, but this really hurts to say no to. So man, that sucks. Damn, Matt, this was a good discussion. I like this.
Yeah.
This was good. This was our I like this a lot. This was a good time.
I think we had a good discussion.
I think we did too.
I might change my mind if I rewatch this movie
Yeah.
in like in a couple of years and seeing like what happens with Cooper Hoffman and Alana Haim.
Yeah.
You know, I think it has more potential of. I think out of all the movies we've deemed not being a modern classic, this has the most potential of becoming a modern classic.
You think over First Reformed?
Yeah, I would say not. I don't think it's a better movie in the first form, but I think it has a better chance.
Okay. Very interesting. More than Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Definitely more than Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
What else did we say no to real quick? And
The
then we will
Irishman, which you haven't uploaded,
that one will be uploaded. I'm so sorry.
and then Decision to Leave.
That one will not be.
No,
No.
again, a great movie. Just it just won't
did,
like.
did we say yes to The Lobster?
Yes, of
Did we
course.
say yes
You don't
to
think the
Gone
Lobster's gonna be
Girl?
an Oscar? What are we talking about?
I'm sorry. I'm
People are gonna
sorry.
remember the Lobster forever.
What about Gone Girl? Did we say yes to Gone Girl?
We said no. I
We
think
said no. We said yes to Get Out. We said yes to
yes,
Iron Man.
yes.
I forgot about that Iron Man. We said no to First Reformed. We said yes to Birdman. We said yes to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and no to Decision to Leave. I'm gonna keep track of them. I'm gonna write a list for us. Matt, this was really fun. This is actually like I arguably think one of our best discussions up there with the First Reformed one. This one fucking rocked.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you final give it away so you can go fucking take a breather?
Um, like, comment, subscribe. Again, as you said at the start of the podcast, leave your review. We'll read it live on air.
On air.
Even if it's a negative review, just give it 5 stars and tell us how much you hate us.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too.
And the actual content of it.
Yeah.
Next week or next episode, I have to decide what movie we're gonna do, and I haven't.
Yeah.
I don't want to say my idea in case I change my mind, but you can also expect a Craig Zoller potential filmography deep dive as well.
Or Jeremy Saulnier.
All 3 movies.
All 3 of them. I just like we love genre movies. I mean, Craig Zoller and Jeremy Saulnier are just genre movie guys. Like that's it. Like let's go.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and then Jeremy Saulnier as well. We're thinking about doing.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's all. What do you think about Licorice Pizza?
Yeah, after an hour podcast, like, do you agree with me or do you agree with Matt? Please agree with
me. Email us at the email that none of us check.
I check it. It's on my phone.
Oh, you did check it? Okay.
I check it like every few days and stuff. Nobody emails us.
Okay.
I just get a Podbean bills that I'm like, I forgot about that.
I had to bend you money for that.
Okay, Matt, this was fun. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back with another episode real soon as Matt gets some free time because you are a busy, sexy boy. Okay. Well, thank you guys for listening. This has been fun, and fuck you, goodbye.